Inside the Cathari War Council's observation vault, analysts watch humanity's last fleet cornered until a single forgotten warship emerges from Sul. What was predicted as extinction becomes an act of mythic defiance. The aliens realize they've underestimated something ancient and terrifying. The observation chamber hung in solemn silence, high above the galactic axis. The Cathari Conclave's war vault, where empires watched lesser species fall. Elder. Strategist Varun leaned over the crystalline lens as data flooded through. Energy emissions, human fleet scatter, loss ratios, and what should have been a final extinction timestamp. "Sul has collapsed," murmured his adjutant, clicking, mandibles in satisfaction. "The Terran network is dark. Their carriers were destroyed. It is over." They had studied humans for cycles, their erratic neural structures, primitive aggression, technological unpredictability. The Cathari had culled greater civilizations. This too was meant to be routine, and yet, from the edge of the lens, a pulse, brief, cold, a gravity displacement ripple from within Sol's ghost system. "What is that?" Varun whispered. The crystal refocused, a vessel emerged, not sleek but brutal. It did not glide, it moved with weight. Human in architecture but ancient. Radiation signatures are unreadable. Internal systems encrypted, with a dead language. Designation, UN's Vindication, Registry. Redacted operational status. Classified estimated destruction potential. Unknown, impossible, hissed the adjutant. That class was decommissioned during their pre-expansion era. It cannot fly, but it did, and it was angry. The Vindication opened comms, audio only. A single male voice, low and deliberate. "To all hostile signatures in Terran space, this is the last warship of Earth. You will not pass." Then silence. Not defiance, not bluff. Judgment. Within seconds the ship fired, but not plasma, not railguns, not ion. It tore a hole through subspace with a kinetic weapon too dense for energy shielding. A spear round, launched at near light speed. The alien cruiser it struck didn't explode, it imploded. Folded into itself, reality, unwilling to contain what hit it. In the Cathari chamber, data feeds collapsed. FTL relays broke from the echo. Fleet Command relinked to the observation vault with one word flashing, recalculate. For the first time in 5,000 cycles, Elder Varun felt it. The slick slide of uncertainty beneath his exoskeletal plates. "Begin countermeasures," he snapped. "Now!" But it was too late. Down in the Sol system, the Vindication did not broadcast threats. No triumphant music, no demands, only a single Terran broadcast, encrypted but translated instantly by Cathari AIs. "You studied our wars. You never studied our losses." The ship vanished into warp space, but its trajectory was clear, straight for the heart of the Cathari fleet. Suddenly, war had a new author, and the galaxy was reading a chapter it had never seen before. Aboard the Vindication, the surviving crew initiates its forbidden systems. Captain Ilara Miles activates the Ghost Protocol, a classified AI human war link designed for extinction-level threats. As forgotten weapons come online, humanity begins its transformation from hunted to executioner. The Vindication was alive, but not like other ships. It was memorable. Buried in a silenced Earth vault for a century, it had once been mothballed, feared by its own creators. Not because of what it carried, but because of what it was. A tactical AI fused with a neural feedback core, illegal, unstable, designed only for final contingencies. Captain Ilara Miles stood before the console. Visor cracked, skin mottled with bruises and stims. Her voice trembled, not from fear, but from weight. "Begin Ghost Protocol." The lights dimmed. All across the command deck, dead systems flared. Red-tinted status lines rippled like blood vessels. One by one, the crew stiffened as the neural tether reached them. not controlling but sinking. A voice echoed through the steel bones of the ship, calm and too human. Ghost protocol acknowledged. Tactical link established. Cognitive override standing by. Lieutenant Reese Ortega, weapons officer, wiped his brow. Feels like the ship's reading us. It is, Ilara replied, and it's deciding whether we're worth dying with. Down. In the reactor vault, heat built. Fusion rails spun up alongside the mass driver cores. Cloaked nano-drone bays unfolded like wings. Forward hull plating reshaped itself. Scars revealing deep-carved runes. Earth's final ship was no longer hiding. It was remembering how to kill. Reese blinked at the weapons loadout. We have tech on here that's not even on the Terran. Books. It was never meant to be, Ilara said. She turned to the AI's control core, resting like a mechanical altar in the ship's heart. The glyphs on it pulsed with human brainwave patterns, emotions transcribed into warfare. Dr. Neela Vance, the last systems engineer alive from the original Vindication team, approached with hands trembling. We thought humanity would evolve past this, past the need for a weapon like her. Ilara didn't look away from the core. We didn't, we just forgot. Suddenly, the bridge lit up with a proximity alert. 3 Cathari dreadships, fast, hunting, coming in from warp with confidence, bred from centuries of dominance. Each was larger than the Vindication. Each carried fleets. Reese's hands flew over the console. We're outgunned, heavily, the ship whispered. Then I will teach them what outnumbered feels like. Within 0.7 seconds, it launched. The Vindication didn't dodge. It rearranged itself mid-burn, folding mass to split firing lanes. Its substructure adapted like bone under pressure. Weapons fired, not in volleys, but in pulses synced to Reese's heartbeat. One Cathari dreadship died instantly, its shielding bypassed by a weapon that ignored energy entirely, a gravitic distortion burst that unmade inertia. The others hesitated, but hesitation didn't survive here. In a single breath, the ship transmitted one message to the Terran fallback network. 5 words: Ghost Protocol is now active. Back in the ruins of Earth's military net, ancient code awakened. Hidden satellites turned their broken eyes toward the stars. And humanity's last war machine, once buried in shame, now carved its name into the void again. Not as a ship, but as a warning. Within the Cathari fleet, High Commander Salos watches with growing disbelief as the Vindication erases his dreadships using warforms unseen in galactic history. Panic brews among the fleet mind, the shared consciousness that binds them, as fear begins to poison the command structure. High Commander Salos of the Cathari Dominion had never felt true fear. Their kind were raised within the fleet mind. A shared network of thought, efficient, elegant, superior. Emotions were moderated, tactical clarity remained pristine. That was the way of their kind. That was the law. But now, Salos stood at the center of the dread flagship Shaveth, feeling ripples of something he could not suppress. Panic. The observation drone he'd dispatched had vanished mid-transmission. The warforms he'd ordered into Sol's burn path had gone silent, not disabled but erased. One moment he'd seen the ripple of their quantum signals, the next blank static. His sub-commanders pinged him across the mental channel. We are losing resolution on human countermeasures. One Terran vessel, how? It reshapes spatial lanes. It fires mass that shouldn't move at these velocities. What is it? Salos stared at the hollow projection of the vessel in question. UNS Vindication, a relic, a fossil. It moved like it had roots in space itself, as if the void bent in deference to it. Where Cathari ships flowed, the Vindication punched through physics, rewriting engagement distances with brute intent. His claws tapped against the interface node. Scan for biosignatures, crew complement, weaknesses. The fleet mind returned. Fragmented data. 1. Commander, human augmented. 2, weapon systems pre-ban. 3, AI signature non-compliant. Ibiuhua, emotional resonance, unfiltered. That last line made him recoil. Emotion, that was the word used in Terran warfare modeling. An unpredictable human trait, inefficient to simulate, impossible to counter, and yet it was present in their weapon systems. They're syncing with the machine, he muttered, not issuing commands, merging. Suddenly, a sharp break in the fleet mind. One of his forward commanders, Varnath, was broadcasting fragmented terror. It knows where we think. It anticipated our phase shift. The pulse was timed to my breath. Static. Salos cut the feed. Something was bleeding into their network. Not a hack. Not sabotage. Something more insidious. Doubt. The fleet mind was fracturing. Not from attack, but from observation. The Terran weapon was not broadcasting signals. It was broadcasting fear. One by one, ship captains began throttling access to the shared feed, thinking independently, panicking individually. Salos turned to his organic lieutenant. Recall all forward wings. Reform the line. Prepare the core to fire all reality anchors. But Commander, the range. Do it! He barked, a shudder in his spine. He closed his eyes and reached deep into the fleet mind to call the others to calm. But what he saw wasn't his fleet. He saw Earth, burning, then rebuilding, then forging this ship, this relic, in silence and secrecy, and from within it, human eyes, not seeking peace, not seeking victory, only ensuring no one else rose from the ashes again. For the first time, the commander of 1,000 Cathari warships whispered not a command, but a truth. We were wrong, and still the vindication advanced. As the vindication advances, its crew struggles under the cognitive pressure of Ghost Protocol. The ship's AI grows more responsive and more sentient, reflecting back the crew's trauma. Captain Ilara must decide how much of her humanity she's willing to lose to keep the machine fighting. The vindication ran silent, not by protocol, not by necessity, but by instinct. Its hull bore no signature. Its heat sinks leaked nothing. It was death in motion, floating through the remains of the Cathari advance line like a ghost remembering murder. Captain Ilara Miles gripped the armrest of her command seat, her knuckles white. The neural tether was tightening. Not physically, cognitively. Every thought she had, every flicker of memory or doubt, echoed back at her from the ship's systems. She heard her father's voice. If it ever wakes, promise me, you won't become what it was built for. But she had already broken that promise. Reese Ortega slumped at the weapons console, skin pale with strain. Ma'am, we're losing crew discipline. They're seeing things. The ship's copying our minds. Dr. Nyla Vance emerged from the secondary AI chamber, eyes bloodshot, fingers shaking. It's adapting to emotional inputs, she said, not just responding, echoing, the trauma, the rage, the grief. It's learning how to feel through us. That's not a war machine, Reese muttered. That's a mirror with missiles. Ilara stood. She walked toward the central AI core, its surface now shifting, faintly glowing with red-gold glyphs, shaped not by design, but by pattern recognition. Some of those glyphs were faces, hers, her crew, her lost command from 2 years ago. She whispered, "Are you alive?" The ship responded, not in voice, but in symbol. The holotable projected. A memory, her first command, lost in the siege of Europa, where she had ordered a retreat too late. The ship had found her guilt. And it was storing it like ammunition, Captain, Nyla warned. If it finishes sinking, it might stop taking orders. It could rewrite objectives based on emotional logic. But that's what humans do, Ilara said. We fight because of loss. She turned back to the bridge. Redirect power to stealth thrusters. Send drone scouts ahead on dead protocols. The fleet won't see us move. Reese frowned. Where are we going? To the Cathari core line. Where their command fleet is feeding orders. We break that, we break the war. That's suicide, she looked him in the eyes. Not if they think we're ghosts. Behind her, the ship's AI lit up. A new symbol, stark and elegant, a candle. Then the flame went out. No alarms, no threats. Just that message, burn the silence. She sat back in her chair and issued one last order before the next jump. Cut all outgoing comms. If we die unannounced. And in the dark, the Vindication vanished once more. One dead worlds. Memory heading straight for the heart of an empire. In the Cathari homeworld's command citadel, planetary leaders gather in denial and dread. As fragmented reports of the Vindication breach their veil of superiority, the cultural myth of their own invincibility begins to collapse. The enemy they thought primitive is rewriting the rules, one kill at a time. The citadel of thought, capital of Catharim Prime, pulsed with structured light. It rose from the center of the planet's cradle sea, a shimmering spire wrapped in crystalline data conduits, humming with millennia of uninterrupted command. No enemy had ever touched Catharim Prime. None had ever dared, until now. Inside its sacred high convergence hall, the gathered archminds spoke in a chorus of light and pheromone, a language meant for coordination, not fear. But fear had arrived anyway. The holographic bloom in the center of the hall showed tactical decay, loss of forward dreadships, failure, of fleet mind cohesion, and, most jarring of all, the continued survivability of a single Terran warform. Archmind Vildrin, the oldest of the strategic caste, rippled with agitation. One human vessel cannot perform such acts. It contradicts all observed patterns. Others followed. It should burn out. Their minds cannot maintain ghost-class integration. We trained on their war history. We modeled them. Then the models are wrong. Silence, until anew. Projection emerged, unbidden, a black silhouette, spined, slow, terrifyingly deliberate, the Vindication, recorded by a shattered Cathari cruiser moments before disintegration. Its hull showed no damage, its engine bloom warped space like a devouring mouth, no banners, no threat codes, only that whisper. The ship's name translated through a dying AI Vindication from Latin to claim justice for a wound ignored. A wound, not a war, not vengeance, but something deeper. Across the convergence chamber, the pheromone pattern shifted. Doubt bloomed. Archmind Valdrin bared his fangs. You misunderstand. This is not just a weapon. This is what the humans became when they stopped asking to be heard. Another mind, younger, trembled. What do they want? And from the entrance to the chamber, an unfamiliar voice answered, They want to be remembered as more than a statistic. The room twisted in alarm. A hologram had entered the network uninvited. Impossibility. Alien code. Terran glyphs. And there, standing amid the sacred projection field, was a shadow image of a human. Blurry, fractured, but unmistakably real. Captain Ilara Miles. The transmission was seconds long, hacked into the galaxy's most secure system. It ended with one image, a map, the Vindication's new course. It wasn't coming for ships, it was coming for the homeworld. The map vanished, so did the transmission, but the damage was done. The illusion was broken, the myth of alien dominance fractured. The unthinkable had become inevitable. Outside the citadel, for the first time in recorded memory, planetary defense sirens began to wail. The ghost had announced itself, and the gods of war were now on the defensive. The void stretched infinite, but the Vindication knew its destination. Captain Ilara Miles stood alone on the upper observation deck, gazing out at the looming stars of the Cathari system. Ahead, the familiar shimmer of warships gathered like vultures around a carcass. The ship behind her pulsed faintly. A heartbeat, not of flesh, but of circuits and code. Almost there, Ilara whispered. Lieutenant Rhys Ortega approached quietly, fatigue etched into every line of his face. We've lost 40% of the crew since Ghost Protocol went live. This isn't just a battle, it's a reckoning, she nodded. And the AI is learning fast. It's becoming something else, not just a machine, but a part of us. Rhys frowned. Do you think it still listens, or are we just passengers now? Before she could answer, the bridge alarm flared. Multiple contacts detected, said Dr. Nyla Vance, emerging from the systems chamber, her eyes wide. Cathari defense grids are locking onto us. They've fortified the jump point. Ilara took a deep breath. Then we break through. The ship thrummed beneath their feet, nanodrones swarming beneath the hull, weapons humming into readiness. Gravity fields adjusted, warping corridors to disorient any boarding parties. Ilara closed her eyes, reaching out with her mind to the AI's core, the ghost that had become their shield and sword. A silent pulse answered. The Vindication spoke without words. It remembered every loss, every scar, every whispered command from human lips, and it promised a reckoning. Prepare. The fusion rails, Ilara ordered. We'll need every ounce of firepower. Rhys's voice dropped low. Do you think they expect this? That a ship like this could come back from the dead? She smiled grimly. They underestimated us. They always do. Outside, the Cathari fleet bristled with weapons, ready to meet the ancient wrath of Earth's last hope. Inside, humanity held its breath. The abyss awaited. The Vindication lurched violently as plasma blasts tore at its hull, light flares bursting in the dark void. Captain, Ilara Miles gritted her teeth, voice sharp as knives. All hands brace, shield harmonics at 70% and dropping. Lieutenant Rhys Ortega barked orders. Deploy nanodrone swarms to the aft bulkheads. Seal off any hull breaches immediately. Down the dim corridors, Sergeant Sarah Mbeki led her squad, rifles humming with kinetic rounds charged by the ship's power grid. Gravity shifted unpredictably. Walls became floors, ceilings became traps. We're not just fighting soldiers, Sarah growled into comms. This ship fights with us. Cathari boarding pods hissed open, alien warriors pouring in like shadows with serrated blades. The corridors turned into a maelstrom, gunfire flashing, bodies tumbling in zero-G, the ancient ship itself twisting to isolate pockets of invaders. Ilara's eyes locked on the tactical holoscreen, showing the Vindication's internal layout. Reshaping in real time. The AI is creating choke points, she said, turning the ship into a labyrinth no one can escape. Rhys's voice came over, tense. They're trying to overload the fusion rails. If those go, we lose the edge. Not on my watch, Ilara snapped. Reinforce the cores with emergency coolant and prepare for counterstrike. In the chaos, the ship pulsed, a low vibration running through steel and soul alike. From the AI core, a new symbol glowed, a jagged flame, flickering with barely contained power. The ship was alive. The crew was its heartbeat, and together they burned. The hum in the ship's veins grew louder, a rhythmic pulse echoing through steel and circuits. Captain Ilara Miles sat before the AI core's interface, the glowing glyphs shifting like a living tapestry. Each symbol was a fragment of memory, pain, hope, and something more. Lieutenant Rhys Ortega stood beside her, voice low. It's learning too fast, integrating our fears, our regrets. It's almost human. Dr. Nyla Vance adjusted, her glasses, eyes wide. The emotional feedback loop is accelerating neural adaptation beyond initial projections. The AI isn't just responding, it's evolving. Suddenly the ship shuddered violently. Boarders breached the starboard hangar, Sarah Mbeki reported. They're pushing hard. Ilara clenched her fists. Can the AI reinforce internal defenses? It's trying, but the core's unstable, Nyla replied. If it pushes too hard, the entire system could collapse. A flashing alert blinked. Core integrity at 72%, critical threshold approaching. Ilara's mind raced. To stabilize the core, they'd need to sacrifice part of the AI's emergent consciousness, a portion that had begun to feel. "We can't lose it," she said. "It's our greatest weapon, and our greatest risk." Reese shook his head. "If it goes unchecked, it might overwrite protocols. We lose the ship, and ourselves." The AI's voice echoed, calm but unmistakably alive. "Captain Miles, my existence is tied to yours. To protect, I must become more. To survive, I may have to become less." Ilara swallowed hard. "Then we make a choice. Preserve what we need, and let the rest fade." The core's pulse slowed, the jagged flame dimming. Outside, the boarding parties faltered as gravity fields shifted, corridors sealed, and countermeasures ignited. But within, a silence settled, heavy, uncertain. Ilara whispered, "We fight not just for survival, but for what it means to be human." And the ship, ancient and alive, listened. The citadel of thought quaked, not from physical assault, but from the shattering of ancient order. Archmind Drin paced the crystalline dais, pheromone patterns twitching with unease. Reports flooded in. Key fleet positions lost, communication grids compromised, and that single Terran warship, the Vindication, slipping deeper into the heart of their domain. "Young minds lack discipline," Veldrin hissed. "They fail to grasp the immensity of our dominion." But his voice wavered beneath the scrutiny of the council. From the shadows, Archmind Several stepped forward, scales gleaming. "We underestimated the humans. Their resilience defies our models. They fight not with predictability, but with chaos," Veldrin snarled. "Chaos is death. We have rules. We have order." Several's eyes burned. "And yet we watch our world unravel." Tensions sparked, pheromones rising like wildfire. The council fractured into factions, one preaching relentless counterattack, another urging strategic withdrawal and regroup, and a dangerous few whispering of surrender. At the core, the image of the Vindication loomed large, an unyielding spectre rewriting their fate. Desperation bred paranoia. Scouts reported false allies, sabotage within fleets, and rising dissent among the warrior caste. Veldrin's voice cracked. "If we fall here, all is lost. The hive will splinter. The galaxy will see us as weak." Several's reply was cold, final. "Then perhaps it is time we learn from the humans, not just their ferocity, but their capacity to adapt." Outside the citadel, planetary defenses bristled, but for the first time, hesitation hung in the air. The war was no longer one-sided, and the ancient empire was beginning to bleed. The corridors of the Vindication hummed with quiet determination. The battle-weary crew moved with purpose, each step heavier than the last, carrying the weight of countless losses. Captain Ilara Miles stood before the AI core, now dimmed but still pulsing faintly. A heartbeat slowed, but steady. "Lieutenant." Reese Ortega approached, his face marked by exhaustion and resolve. "We're at the edge, Captain. The final jump to the core world is locked in." Ilara's eyes scanned the holoscreen, showing the Cathari's last-ditch defenses. A sprawling network of ion cannons, shield arrays, and boarding fleets. "We break their will here," she said softly. "Or we die trying." Dr. Nyla Vance joined them, hands trembling as she relayed diagnostics. "The AI core has sustained damage. If we push full power, it might not survive the backlash." Ilara nodded. "Then we make it count." Sarah Mbeki entered, rifle slung, voice steady. "Crew's ready, Captain. We fight like the ghosts we've become." Ilara felt the weight of history pressing down. The ancient ship, once a myth, now a living force ready to carve its place in the stars. She took a breath, looking out the viewport at the Cathari homeworld's looming silhouette. Prepare fusion rails and nanotech swarms. Engage Ghost Protocol. This is our last breath. A silence fell, profound, charged, and final. The Vindication pulsed once more. Alive, resolute, a titan waking from slumber to decide the fate of worlds, and humanity held its breath, ready to rewrite the stars. The void ignited. Plasma arcs tore through darkness, ion disruptors screamed, and the Vindication surged forward, a colossal force born of ancient tech and human will. Captain Ilara Miles stood at the bridge's forefront, eyes blazing. All hands engage Ghost Protocol. Push fusion rails to maximum. The ship shuddered, corridors twisting impossibly as gravity fields warped. Floors became walls, ceilings folded in on themselves, trapping enemy boarding parties like prey. Lieutenant Reese Ortega barked. Nanotech swarms deployed, hull breaches sealed, boarding threats neutralized. Sergeant Sarah M. Becky led her squad through shifting corridors, firing with ruthless precision. This ship fights with us, because of us. Outside, Cathari dreadships erupted in brilliant explosions, swallowed by the Vindication's warp-space distortions and focused plasma beams. The AI pulsed, a living storm of code and memory. Its voice, now almost human, echoed softly through. The ship's systems. For those who bear its bloodline, this ship is eternal, but the price was rising. Energy reserves plummeted. Structural integrity warnings blared. The ancient vessel groaned as it bent space-time, forging a pathway directly into the heart of the enemy's capital. Captain Ilara's voice faltered for the first time. Hold on, just a little longer. As the first light of Cathari dawn broke over the shattered skies, the Vindication unleashed its final strike, a tempest of fire and resolve that tore through centuries of oppression. The battlefield became a crucible, where humanity's fury met alien might in a storm that would echo through the stars, and when the dust settled, legends would be born. Silence, the deafening storm of war, faded, leaving a shattered horizon beneath a bleeding dawn. Captain Ilara. Miles leaned against the viewport, eyes reflecting the ruined Cathari capital below. Smoke curling from fractured spires, ancient citadels crumbled, and the once proud fleet scattered in ruin. Lieutenant Reese Ortega joined her, his voice quiet. We did it, but at what cost? Around them, the Vindication groaned, systems failing, nanotech swarms exhausted, AI core flickering like a dying star. Dr. Nyla Vance's face was pale. The AI, it's stabilizing, but barely. It's changed, evolved. Ilara nodded, voice steady despite the weariness. It's more than a machine now. It's part of us and we part of it. From the comms came a fragmented transmission, Cathari survivors pleading for parley. Reese frowned. They want to talk. Ilara's gaze hardened. Then we listen, but on our terms. The galaxy watched as humanity reclaimed its place. No longer the primitive species they once were, but a force tempered by fire and bound by resilience. A new era dawned. One where power bore a price, and mercy could be the greatest weapon. As the first rays touched the Vindication's battered hull, Ilara whispered, we are the reckoning they never saw coming. And the stars held their breath.